guns are no longer just coming from the US. They're coming from Africa, they're coming from the Middle East. Some of them are coming from weird, big purchases in South America, and some of them are military grade. There were things that the US probably sold to countries in South America at some point that are now on the
Yeah.
black market. But that's not the whole of it, you know. There's a lot of other entities now selling guns, and you want to talk about innovation. Mexico is a cradle of innovation when it comes to a lot of the common new tactics that you start seeing out there in battlefields across the world. Um, Weaponized civilian drones being utilized against, against the police and military.
Well, when there's a constant battlefield,
Yeah,
people are learning, adapting.
I mean, if anything, I'm a product of my environment. Some of the people freak out with the level of the amount of things that I know how to do in urban environments, from, I don't know, like making things, procuring things, making a blowout kit out of shit you buy at Walmart or at a gas station. Those are all things related to the poverty that I grew up in, related to the lack of supply that we had, and just related to the desperation and creativity and just the clear, unsupervised Wild West shit show that I was a part of when it came to work. Now, the criminal side of it, the cartel groups, the criminal side of it are doing the same thing. They basically have an open playing field as far as experimentation. They have an unlimited budget when it comes to what they can buy and what they can get. And there's been like whole laboratories found out there where people are just trying to experiment. With some of these groups are experimenting with everything from, drone technology with explosives on it to things reminiscent of the IRA mobile mortar setups for inside of a van to make IEDs now. IEDs have a history in Mexico, but not that specific. I think we're starting to see now a whole new shift into specifics of explosives are being utilized more in a more dramatic way against some of the military forces down south. But it's just a giant Wild West show basically down there.
How do you have a theory on how you anticipate this to boil over in the next 2 years, 5 years, 20 years?
I mean, I foresee some sort of armed intervention by the U.S. into Mexico at some point within my lifetime. I used to say within the next 5 years. I don't know. Politics are changing in the U.S. I thought if Trump was going to stay in office, he would probably see some sort of intervention in Mexico, if only because he apparently had some sort of policies that were strong arming the Mexican government into doing what they have to do.
In your opinion, do you think the Mexican people need that, the U.S. intervention, or a bad thing?
No, U.S. intervention hasn't led to a lot of good things in recent history.
Right.
So,
I say right, and I agree with that. We could case study Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But there's in a lot of cases, I was in the initial invasion in Iraq, and then went back the next year, OF 1, 2, and 3, and the I was there for the first vote, and I saw all the tears, and I saw the happiness, and even OF 1, the people that were just happy that we were there. We screwed up a lot of things, just like we did in Vietnam, and we caused a lot of problems, but I guess in some ways, most of our hearts were in the right place. So I'm curious, how that would plays out in Mexico with our, super close neighbor. I live in Texas, so it's like my closest neighbor.
So, I mean, let's talk about hypotheticals, right? The U.S. decides to put every Marine in Pendleton on the border, which has happened before. Mm-hmm. That didn't stop drug flow coming across the border. When Trump militarized the border and put all the barbed wire up on the San Diego, area, California area, the military was deployed and a support role, and all of these things happened. Drugs were still coming through that border, so that's something that's something the country needs to reflect on.
Yeah.
Also, a few of those Marines were actually charged with transporting illegals from the border all the way up, which is completely another thing. But people should look at that specific part of U.S. history, which is recent U.S. history, to try and get a better idea of what it would look like to try and militarize and block off that border if you're going to plan any sort of aggression and or intervention into Mexico. That's one thing that people kind of need to figure out.